if the next air battle didn't need fighter jets to win, but just one missile with the power of a nuclear bomb? Russia is reportedly secretly developing a nuclear-tipped air-to-air missile, a weapon that could wipe out entire squadrons in a single strike. It's not just an arms upgrade, it's a shift in global power dynamics. In this video, we break down what this missile is, why it matters, and what it could mean for future wars in the sky. If you're fascinated by military advancements and their global impact, hit that subscribe button and stay informed. In early assessments released by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, evidence surfaced suggesting that Russia is actively working to expand its nuclear weapons program into an unexpected new category: air-to-air missiles equipped with nuclear warheads. This revelation caught many analysts off guard. While nuclear bombs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and even submarine-launched nukes are commonly discussed, the idea of launching a nuclear attack from a fighter jet directly at another aircraft midair adds a whole new layer of strategic complexity. The missile believed to be at the center of this new strategy is a modified version of the R-37M, an already powerful long-range missile used by the Russian military. NATO refers to it as the AA-13 Axehead. Originally designed to shoot down high-value targets like surveillance aircraft, bombers, and tankers from a distance, the R-37M is now rumored to be undergoing a radical transformation. Now, let's look at why this missile even matters. At first glance, the R-37M may look like just another advanced air-to-air missile, but beneath its sleek exterior lies a devastating potential. Its conventional version is already feared for its range and speed, but imagine replacing its standard warhead with a small tactical nuclear payload. Now we're talking about an entirely different level of destruction. The difference is not just about damage, it's about area of effect. A conventional warhead requires direct contact or very close proximity to take out an aircraft. But a nuclear-tipped missile doesn't need precision. It just needs to get close enough for the shockwave and radiation to do the rest. That means entire formations of aircraft, fighters, drones, even stealth jets, could be taken out with a single missile. This kind of firepower fundamentally changes how air battles could unfold. It shifts aerial combat from precise, tactical engagements to high-risk encounters where a single missile could end it all in seconds. Before we move forward, let's take a moment to really break down the R-37M, the missile that's reportedly being reconfigured for nuclear use. Even without a nuclear warhead, the R-37M is an incredibly advanced and intimidating piece of military hardware. It has an impressive range of up to 300 kilometers. That's about 186 miles. This means a Russian fighter jet can fire it far beyond the range of most Western air-to-air missiles. That's a huge tactical advantage. Speed? The R-37M doesn't just cruise, it screams through the air at speeds exceeding Mach 6 or over 4,600 miles per hour. That's nearly 8 times faster than a commercial airliner and faster than most jets can react. But raw speed and range aren't everything. The R-37M is guided by a combination of inertial navigation and active radar homing, allowing it to track and zero in on targets with incredible precision, even at long distances. It's designed to take out targets that are difficult to reach, such as AWACS, Airborne Warning and Control System, aircraft, surveillance planes, or strategic bombers. Now, imagine combining all of that power with a miniaturized nuclear warhead. It would no longer need pinpoint accuracy. Its effectiveness would come not from hitting a target directly, but from the sheer force of the nuclear blast radius, making it uniquely suited to obliterate multiple aerial threats at once. What makes the nuclear-equipped R-37M a potential game-changer is its strategic versatility. Typically, nuclear weapons are thought of as tools of last resort, used for massive retaliation or national defense. But a nuclear air-to-air missile falls into a gray area. It's small enough to be tactical, yet powerful enough to cause immense destruction. This raises difficult questions. Would a military force be more willing to use a low-yield nuclear missile in an air battle if it means preventing a catastrophic loss of control in the skies? Would such a missile be seen as more usable because it's limited in scope, even though it's still nuclear? That's precisely what makes this weapon so controversial. It blurs the line between conventional and nuclear warfare. And once that line is blurred, the threshold for nuclear conflict becomes dangerously low. At this point of the video, let's look at why Russia is pursuing this type of weapon now. Just so you know, there are a few possible reasons, and each one offers insight into the evolving geopolitical chessboard. The first concern is air superiority. The US and its allies dominate the skies with fifth-generation fighters like the F-22 and F-35, supported by cutting-edge stealth, radar, and electronic warfare systems. Facing such advanced capabilities, Russia may view nuclear air-to-air missiles as a strategic equalizer, able to neutralize stealth jets and formations without matching Western technology plane for plane. There's also the psychological impact. The mere presence of such a weapon could act as a powerful deterrent. Knowing that engaging Russian aircraft might provoke a nuclear response could force adversaries to reconsider their tactics or avoid deploying valuable assets near contested zones. Historically, nuclear air-to-air missiles aren't new. Both the US and USSR tested them during the Cold War, like the US AR-2 Genie, but abandoned them due to fallout risks and political costs. Russia's renewed interest suggests a strategic shift, favoring high-risk disruptive tools over conventional doctrine amid escalating global tensions. Nuclear weapons have always been about deterrence, the threat of massive retaliation to prevent conflict, but introducing a tactical, deployable nuclear air-to-air missile like the modified R-37M changes the game. Unlike intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, or submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs, which are strategic in nature and designed for maximum destruction, this kind of weapon suggests a more flexible use of nuclear force in limited, even regional, conflicts. The mere existence of a nuclear-armed air-to-air missile lowers the threshold for nuclear use. In other words, it creates the illusion that nuclear weapons can be used surgically or selectively. But here's the problem. Once a nuclear weapon is used, even in a limited capacity, the line between conventional and nuclear war becomes dangerously blurred. This undermines decades of global nuclear doctrine, which hinges on the idea that such weapons are only for last resort existential threats. With nuclear missiles now potentially flying in air-to-air combat, it raises serious questions. Could one mistake escalate into a full-blown nuclear exchange? This isn't the first time the world has seen nuclear air-to-air missiles. Back in the 1950s and 60s, during the height of the Cold War, the United States developed the AIR-2 Genie, an unguided nuclear rocket designed to destroy Soviet bomber formations. The Soviet Union, in turn, explored its own nuclear-tipped aerial munitions. But as technology advanced and the risks became clear, both sides eventually backed away from the idea. Why? Because using nuclear weapons in air-to-air combat poses a huge operational risk. For one, it's extremely difficult to predict where the fallout might go, especially at high altitudes where wind currents are unpredictable. Second, any miscalculation or misidentification of a target could lead to catastrophic consequences. Imagine detonating a nuclear missile over a contested zone where multiple nations have aircraft in the air. Even a small nuclear detonation could trigger retaliation or international condemnation. The return of this concept by Russia has many analysts warning of a new kind of arms race. Nuclear arms races in the past revolved around delivery platforms like submarines, silos, and strategic bombers. But this time, the focus could shift to tactical, deployable nuclear assets, small but deadly weapons designed for fast, limited warfare. If Russia is truly investing in nuclear air-to-air capability, it could push other major powers like the US, China, or even regional actors like India or Pakistan to develop similar weapons, not necessarily because they want to, but because they fear falling behind. What follows is an environment of mutual suspicion, accelerated arms spending, and decreased trust, especially in regions like Eastern Europe, East Asia, or the Middle East, where tensions are already high. And here's another critical point. Most existing arms control agreements don't cover these types of weapons. Treaties like New START are focused on strategic, long-range weapons, not smaller, more flexible platforms like air-to-air missiles. The world has already witnessed the breakdown of several key arms control agreements over the last decade. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, INF, between the US and Russia collapsed in 2019 after both sides accused each other of violations. The Open Skies Treaty, which allowed for aerial surveillance flights over military installations, also fell apart. That leaves the New START Treaty as the only remaining pillar of US-Russia nuclear arms control, and it's set to expire in 2026 unless extended. The introduction of new nuclear capabilities, especially tactical ones like air-to-air missiles, further erodes the possibility of meaningful negotiations. Why? Because it's harder to verify and track these weapons. Unlike land-based ICBMs, which can be counted and monitored, aircraft carrying nuclear-tipped missiles are far more mobile, and their deployment is easier to conceal. This creates what analysts call a gray zone of accountability, where countries may develop or stockpile such weapons without technically violating existing agreements because those agreements never envisioned these weapons in the first place. Russia's move will undoubtedly affect military alliances around the globe. In NATO, it will increase pressure on member states to invest more heavily in advanced air defenses. The US may be forced to reevaluate its posture in Europe and Asia, potentially deploying more advanced aircraft or nuclear-capable systems closer to Russian borders. Meanwhile, countries like China, India, and Pakistan, already nuclear powers, with regional rivalries, may feel compelled to consider air-to-air nuclear options. Even non-nuclear states might seek new defensive technologies to counter this threat, including directed energy weapons, electronic warfare systems, or new types of aerial interceptors. In essence, one missile could redefine the global balance of power in the skies. Now, let's look at what will happen if these Russian missiles are really used. This is the question no one wants to answer, but it must be asked. What happens if a nuclear air-to-air missile is actually used in combat? The detonation of a nuclear warhead, even a low-yield one, at high altitude would cause an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, capable of disabling electronic systems across a wide area. This could crash aircraft, cripple communication systems, and shut down radar installations, not just of the enemy, but possibly even allies or neutrals in the area. Then there's the radiation. Even though a high-altitude blast might not have the same fallout as a ground-level explosion, ionizing radiation could still pose a severe health risk to pilots, passengers, and ground personnel if debris or radiation levels fall in populated areas. But perhaps the greatest consequence is psychological. The moment a nuclear weapon is used anywhere, it breaks the post-Boileau taboo that has kept such weapons off the battlefield for nearly 80 years. From that point on, every military engagement carries the looming specter of nuclear escalation. What is the public reaction to these new Russian missiles? If the world wakes up to the reality that nuclear weapons can now be used in the same space where conventional dogfights occur, public reaction will be swift and fierce. Already, nuclear disarmament activists and watchdog organizations like ICAN, International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, are calling for stricter regulations on emerging tactical nuclear threats. But they face an uphill battle, especially when national security narratives dominate public discourse. Citizens around the world may begin pressuring their governments to either disarm or rearm, depending on their perception of the threat. This only deepens political polarization and may make it harder for leaders to pursue rational, long-term strategies. Ethically, this opens a Pandora's box. Can we truly control where and when a nuclear weapon is used if it's part of a standard air patrol loadout? Who decides the threshold for deployment? And how do we differentiate between a nuclear-tipped missile and a conventional one in real time? Where do we go from here? As artificial intelligence, drone swarms, and hypersonic weapons become part of modern militaries, adding nuclear-tipped air-to-air missiles to the mix could result in an environment that's too fast, too automated, and too high stakes for humans to manage rationally. Think about it. If AI-controlled fighter jets are ever programmed to defend themselves against threats, will they be equipped with nuclear options? And if a machine decides to fire one of these weapons during combat, who's accountable? The world is entering an age where the speed of warfare is outpacing the speed of diplomacy, and we're rapidly losing the time needed for reflection, de-escalation, or even verification. Russia's push to deploy nuclear air-to-air missiles marks a major evolution in global military power, and a dangerous one at that. It's not just a new weapon, it's a new doctrine. As the balance of air superiority shifts, so too does the stability of arms treaties and international diplomacy. One thing is clear, this isn't just about jets and missiles, it's about the future of global security. If you want to keep up with these critical developments, make sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with others who follow military tech and geopolitics. Thanks for watching!